Hey, it's Andrew Rusnak, founder of Charlotte Content Marketing, and this is the Charlotte Content Marketing Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. If this is your first time listening to the Charlotte Content Marketing Podcast, Charlotte Content Marketing is, as you might guess, a content marketing agency out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We are all about building, fostering, and furthering relationships. So I don't know if you've kept up with any of this. I'm kind of a geek for it, but with Google's latest updates, and Google does update their algorithm periodically to come up with new ways of filtering search results and trying to get the best results out there. Whether or not they succeed at that, kind of iffy sometimes, particularly over the last year or so. I know I'm not the only one who has noticed a bit of a decline in the quality of search results coming from Google. They are continuing to work on that with regular algorithm updates, and we're seeing that right now with the helpful content update that came out a couple months back, and then most recently the March core update. And that's really what I want to get to today. Is this has to do with AI generated content, and how Google views that, what that means for your brand, and what that means for content marketing and digital marketing in general. So to back up just a little bit, so when we talk about AI generated content, really what we're talking about is any kind of generative AI stuff. So we're talking your chat GPT, we're talking stability AI for image generation, any of that kind of stuff. Really what I want to focus on is the text AI content. So what we're talking about here is website content, blog posts, any kind of content that gets indexed by search engines, crawled and indexed, hopefully indexed by search engines. The difference between crawling and indexing is that web crawlers sent out by search engines like Google crawl the information on your website, all websites, and then if they deem it to be quality content, they will index that content, and then that's the index is where search engines pull their search results from. So in looking at indexed content that is AI generated, Google's initial stance on this was they wanted content for humans by humans. So any kind of AI generated content was basically looked at as spam, and it would be either ignored or de-indexed if it was somehow found in the index. And then ChatGPT comes along towards the beginning of 2023, end of 2022, and kind of upends that whole deal. We give Google a lot of credit, and Google is a really big company and they have a lot of resources. But at the end of the day, even Google can't quite tell that content is AI generated. They use classifiers, but OpenAI's own classifier, OpenAI is the maker of ChatGPT, OpenAI's own classifier couldn't tell whether content was AI generated or not. So if that tells you anything about whether or not search engines like Google can figure out whether content is AI generated, there you go. So about midway through 2023, Google says, okay, we're fine with any type of content, no matter how it's produced, no matter how it's developed, as long as it's helpful, as long as it's quality content and that it's helpful. So this was a bit of a reverse course, given that they were dead set against AI content for the longest time. And even after ChatGPT hit the scene, they were saying, no, you can't use AI to generate content. Then all of a sudden, I think they realized that they were fighting a losing battle, and that ChatGPT, look, for all of its limitations and problems, it does a pretty convincing job, at least on the surface, of creating content that's usable. And we'll get into a little bit more about what the problems are with AI-generated content, even if you can use it, what the problems are for your users or your customers in the case of brands. So most recently, I mentioned the helpful content update that Google put out, and that was trying to find authentic content, trying to find content that spoke from actual experience. And the whole point of this was to cut down on AI-generated spam in review sites and things like that, affiliate sites where they were just putting up BS reviews and throwing their affiliate links on there, and they had no actual review to give of a product. They had no hands-on experience. This was more just AI generated stuff so that they could throw up a whole bunch of sites really quick and spam the internet with links. So this most recent algorithm update, the March 2024 core update, seems to be focused more on getting authentic content surfaced. It seems like what Google is doing is using their own transformer technology and classifiers and stuff to really seek out the context of the content that they're crawling and potentially indexing. So what that means is even further hits for AI-generated content. This is not to say that AI-generated content is bad or that Google is going to penalize AI-generated content, but it is to say that if you're just purely putting in a prompt and then copying and pasting AI-generated content, probably not the best way to go. I have no problem with AI as a research tool, as a tool to get started with an idea, as an analysis tool. You can use it to bounce ideas off of and stuff. But the main drawback with AI and content generation, and this is kind of going back to Google's most recent update, is that there's no originality in it. So everything that comes out of something like ChatGPT has been said before. After all, ChatGPT doesn't come up with things on its own. It's based off of training data that ChatGPT semantically links words. So when you type in a prompt, it's not actually thinking. There's no logic behind it. It's a statistical matching algorithm in which it's looking for it works similar to how the autofill works, like when you're sending a text or an email and it automatically fills in what it thinks maybe the next sentence is going to be. It's similar to that, just on a much bigger and more complex scale. But the idea is that ChatGPT is just going to look for information that it has based on the training data. Well, if it's trained off of information that's already out there on the internet, then that means that any information that you get from something like ChatGPT and then you put on your site is just regurgitating and remixing something that's already been said, so there's no original thought behind it. It may be original thought to you if you don't know the subject matter. Like I could look up something about biochemistry and wow, that's original to me, but it's not actually original content on the internet, so you're not adding anything to the conversation. And that's where Google is really trying to get to the heart of the matter, is they're looking for content that actually adds value to the conversation, adds value to visitors to your website, adds value to the internet as a whole. And so when you're using AI-generated content, you're not fulfilling that. And this goes right back to Google's EEAT, which is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Those are the four factors or considerations that Google is looking at when it's trying to figure out the quality of content on the internet. So if you're using AI-generated content, I don't think that you're going to get penalized necessarily, but I don't think that you're not going to give your user or your customer the best experience with your brand or your website. And then B, the ramifications when it comes to search engines can be a problem. And we'll take another podcast or another blog post or something to go into the whole thing about how large language models, LLMs like ChatGPT, how they get their information and how you can get your information on there. That's something that we call entity SEO, and that's another topic for another day. But so for right now, what we're encouraging is if you're going to use AI to generate content, make sure to take the time to edit it. And make sure to take the time to look for ways that you can add something new and original to the conversation. If you really want it to get picked up by search engines and rank well and benefit your brand on the web, look for ways that you can add to the conversation, something unique, something that's valuable, something that's a first-hand experience that isn't out there. Something that's original that other people aren't saying. Try to find ways to take existing topics that you know about, that you have firsthand experience with, and put your own twist on them. But just copying and pasting from something like ChatGPT isn't going to cut it. And a lot of people are finding that out the hard way, unfortunately, right now, because for the past year, they've been just copying and pasting. And they're now, I mean, some sites are disappearing off the web entirely in terms of search results, not like the actual website is disappearing or anything. So if you're going to use AI generated content, make sure to put your own twist on it and add something valuable to the conversation, something that hasn't been said before and that is not already existing out there. Otherwise, you're just kind of wasting your time and really you're not giving your customers or your site users the best experience possible. If you want to learn more about this, I'd be more than happy to sit down and have a conversation, a no obligation consultation. We like to just call it a relaxed discussion, talk about how Charlotte Content Marketing can help you out in that regard. We'll be more than happy to take a look at your existing content strategy and go over some ideas about how we can take things to the next level. So you can email us at hello@charlottecontentmarketing.com. You can also give us a call at 704-323-6762. You can also find us on socials. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, and Instagram. So find us on there. Of course, we're on YouTube, and the podcast is also available on Spotify and Apple and anywhere else you get your podcasts. So thank you so much again for tuning into the Charlotte Content Marketing Podcast. Once again, my name is Andrew Rusnak. I'm the founder of Charlotte Content Marketing, and I look forward to talking with you in the next one.